The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As y'all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this college football season. We'll be using their lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for all of you each week. Now, when you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, use bonus code HARDCOUNT, and you'll get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code HARDCOUNT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code HARDCOUNT when you sign up. Let's make this college football season 1 for the books. Let's make it legendary. Let's get to the show. Welcome into the Hard Count. It is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, last one on the face of the planet. It's just a beautiful thing to be talking college football with y'all. It's a beautiful thing to be looking down the barrel of a tremendous Week 3 college football slate. Got a few more previews to get to today. We usually do our preview predictions all on Tuesday, but this is, again, a loaded slate, man. Had to share the wealth a little bit throughout the course of this week. We've been hot on the picks if you've been following us here on the social channels, Instagram, Twitter, at JD PicKell. But the Hard Count presented by BetMGM. The BetMGM taking care of the folks this week, man. A little parlay boost token exclusively for this college football weekend. So go ahead and get locked in over there. Make sure you just ramp up and juice up a little bit on the parlay side of things. We'll have our picks for you on this platform, not on this show, but on this platform on our Thursday, slated videos. So again, make sure you're subscribed if you want those picks. Also make sure you're subscribed, following all that on all the social platforms, Instagram, Twitter, at JD PicKell. But let's get right to it, man. The BetMGM game of the week that we already gave you our prediction for is Tennessee, Georgia. But I think this is a funny spot here when you talk about the quarterbacks, because the narrative around this game, I don't think matches how you should feel about the quarterbacks if you are a one Joey Aguilar or if you are a one Gunner Stockton. We'll break it down right now, but we always tell you all this, man, top of the show. Again, make sure you are subscribed right here on the YouTube channel. Appreciate y'all being dialed in. The narrative around this game for Tennessee is very like lose yourself kind of vibes, right? This is your one shot, one opportunity. Georgia is gettable. Georgia's young. Georgia hasn't looked all that great. Getting stopped at the end of the first half on the goal line against Austin Peay. That's not Georgia. Not the Georgia I have come to know throughout the course of the last few years. It's not a Kirby Smart Georgia football team. Is Georgia more gettable right now? You got them at home. They got a first-year starting quarterback. All these things, right? All these things are being said about Georgia right now. And so you kind of go down that rabbit hole. You say, okay, maybe a little more pressure on Tennessee to win this game. Maybe there's a little bit more opportunity for some anxiety for Tennessee as a football team. And I don't think that narrative is all the way untrue when you look at the Tennessee side. But for the Joey Aguilar side specifically, like, you should be dialed in on winning, and I have to believe he wants to win this game as bad as anybody else in Knoxville. But at the same time, reality is he should be feeling zero anxiety. He should be back on the beaches of California, man, just absolutely vibing going into this one. Because the reality is for him, he's supposed to be at UCLA right now. You know what I mean? Like, if you told Joey Aguilar he'd be starting against Georgia in Neyland Stadium a couple of months ago, it'd be like, what happened? What happened at UCLA as to why I'm no longer going to be playing quarterback there? And then you proceed to tell them all about Nico Iamaleava and how that whole thing went down. But nobody said when Joey Aguilar transferred to Tennessee, this guy is the reason we're beating Georgia. What they were saying is, hallelujah, we're going to have a quarterback this year. Praise the Lord, we're not starting somebody for the first time ever in college football in a true freshman in George McIntyre or a Jake Merklinger. And those guys, I think, will still have great careers. But, like, you didn't want to play those guys this year because you still had a roster now that could go compete for a college football playoff spot and have a schedule, quite frankly, that caters to a college football playoff berth. So the reality is, for Joey Aguilar, it's like, man, cut it loose. Yeah, it's Georgia. Yeah, it's going to be the best competition you ever played against. But this spot in itself, nobody is putting the pressure on Joey Aguilar to go out there and just beat Georgia by himself. Like, when you kind of distill this game down to what's going to be asked of Joey A, in my opinion, make the throws. Be on time. Go to the right place with the football. And when I say make the throws, they should be throws that are made with a pretty good amount of real estate around those receivers. Like, it's on Josh Heupel to scheme these dudes open. It's on that running back room, that offensive line, to take advantage of whatever look they get from Georgia. You're hoping and praying it's a light box. It's on those receivers to go win their matchups. But, like, for Joey Aguilar, you're not asking him to fit it into like this NFL style of window. You're not asking him to make all these different checks at the line. It's like, no, run our system, go fast, don't make a stupid mistake, and cut it the heck loose, dude. Like, that's the vibe, I think, if you're Joey Aguilar. Isn't that kind of the vibe you want your quarterback to have when you go up against one of the best teams in college football in Georgia? Certainly one of the best rosters in college football in Georgia. The best coach in college football in Kirby Smart. Like, don't you want him kind of feeling this house money vibe? I have a friend who watches the show, and we were talking. He's a Tennessee fan. He was talking during the preseason and saw our prediction for Tennessee to go win 9 football games. He was like, man, that's a little bit rich, don't you think? Like, 9 wins? We'd be happy with 8. Like, 8 feels fair. Nobody's saying Joey Aguilar's got to go take him back to the college football playoff. Now, perfect world, that would happen, and you build a statue for Joey Aguilar. And Caden Smith and I talked about maybe the Joey Aguilar wing being in the trophy room here for Tennessee if that happens, and that'd be it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but like legit, they would name a street after Joey Aguilar if he takes him to the playoff with all the offseason nonsense around Nico Iamaleava. He should feel pretty free and clear in this game. In a clear mind, a low-anxiety approach here for Joey Aguilar against that team at home. Now, going to Athens at home crowd at your back, I think that there is a ton of opportunity here for Joey Aguilar and very little consequence for him in this spot. No one's going to think less of Joey Aguilar if he throws 2 picks and you lose to Georgia, right? Like, just it's not going to be a world you live in. Now, on the flip side of this, for Gunner Stockton, the narrative around Georgia, hey, you're walking into this thing, you're favored on the road. Georgia's getting back to gritty, grimy Georgia, supposed to be an edge to them. I know there's all the conversation around they're young and they're gettable, but like the Georgia fan base is saying, no. We actually like this version of Georgia going into the year better than what last year's Georgia was with Carson Beck. This isn't me knocking Carson Beck. I'm just saying the people in Athens feel like maybe he wasn't necessarily the fit culturally for how they do things, not very eat off the floorish when you're wearing a chain and driving a Lambo. I'm just saying. With that being said, for Gunner Stockton, personally now, like this entire lead up for him to this season being the guy, it's been a journey. Been a journey for Gunner Stockton. Similar to Ty Simpson at Alabama, going into that Florida State game, it's like, dude, you bet on yourself. You could have hit the portal multiple times. You know how many teams would trade a left arm in their entire special teams unit to have a guy like Gunner Stockton playing quarterback for them? I promise you, several G5 schools would have. Have to think a couple of different schools at the Power 4 level would have, maybe playing in the Big 12 or the ACC. Gunner Stockton could have gone somewhere else. I promise you. Promise you. However, now, the lead up to this spot with him betting on himself, it's like, okay, now it's your shot. Now it's your chance. And you're going on the road, playing in one of what I would deem to be one of the toughest environments in college football to play in Neyland Stadium. Like, okay, go make yourself right. This is your chance. Go make yourself right. And also for Georgia, is the bar maybe sets unreasonably high relative to, what's achievable every single year, which is winning a national championship in Athens? I guess unreasonable is a way to phrase it. I just think it's like the standard that you have earned if you're Kirby Smart, the standard you've earned by how you recruit. And so for better or for worse, if you don't do that this year, it starts with beating Tennessee. If you don't do that this season, you look back at the quarterback. You say, well, did we have the right guy pulling the trigger? Did we have the guy that can make the difference for us when we get on the field with the Tennessee, with the Bama, with so on and so forth across the SEC, and who you'll have to beat to win the national championship? And so for Gunner Stockton, I don't want to say it's a thing where he should be feeling more anxiety, but I do think when you talk about how he's going to feel when he takes the field in Neyland, there is more pressure on him. And I don't think you're asking more of Gunner Stockton when it comes to him throwing the ball downfield or, just different things physically. I think you want him to run the football in this game, quite frankly. That's for another conversation for another time. But I just think there's more pressure here on Gunner Stockton, and I'm really curious to see how that impacts both these guys. Because I talk about the spot, and it sounds like it's a spot that's favoring Joey Aguilar. I suppose you could convince yourself of that because there should be a lower level of anxiety. But honestly, when it comes down to who's going to win this football game, I think there should be something to watch and when it comes to who embraces the moment a little bit more, who embraces their spot. Like if Joey Aguilar, I keep saying he should be playing free, he should be playing low anxiety, he should be playing with a cut-it-loose mentality. Okay, awesome. But if he doesn't embrace that mindset, doesn't embrace that spot for himself, and goes out there and plays a little bit tight for the duration of 4 quarters, then he's going to have a tough day at the office. You don't play tight against Georgia and have success. Doesn't happen. Same thing for Gunner Stockton. If he doesn't embrace the pressure, embrace the moment, no. I signed up for this. I signed up to be the guy at Georgia. I knew I was going to have to wait my turn. I knew when I was backing up Carson Beck, whenever it was my time to play ball, it was going to be no, we want to win a national championship kind of year. I know what the price of admission here is at Georgia. I know what it is. So I'm embracing that. I knew there was pressure. I'm all here for it. If he embraces it to that degree and plays to his potential, like, Georgia can roll in this football game. So I'm really, really curious to see the overall, like, competitive disposition for both these guys going into this game, especially early on. But the spot in itself, for the teams, I get the conversation, but for the quarterbacks, I think it's actually flipped. Tennessee, yeah, it's pressure for sure. For Joey Aguilar, zero pressure. Dude, go cut it loose. For Georgia, yeah, you're favored. Yeah, you're still the big dog in the conference who won the SEC a season ago. No pun intended on the big dog stuff. But for Gunner Stockton, like, yeah, there's some pressure on you to then go keep this team at the cruising altitude and elevate them to national title status with your first year now as the guy in Athens. So that'll be a lot of fun, man. Fired up for that. I know y'all are as well. So we have a voicemail box set up, 629-888-3931. Go ahead and give us a call there with your take. We had a couple of calls on this very topic. I want us to just address it together rather than go to these specific voicemails. Florida lost USF, and vibes being bad feels like a soft way to put it. Vibes were atrocious right now in Gainesville based on some of y'all's voicemails. But the question I want us to answer together right now after week 2 of the college football season, after Florida lost to USF, is this salvageable for Billy Napier? I'll go back to what I just said. The USF game was embarrassing. As bad a look as you could have in week 2 of the college football season, like, you saw Bama lose to Florida State if you're Florida, and you're like, dude, Bama, what are they doing, dude? Losing to that was 2-10 last year. Losing to that team, Bama, what's up with y'all, man? Then you went out there and said, no, actually watch this. Usher style, watch this. Just get thwacked by USF. And I say thwacked, not in the sense of on the scoreboard, but you go ahead and watch how USF physically pushed Florida off the line. And it wasn't a thing where, like, it's going to show up in the rushing totals, because I think USF only outrushed them by like 10 yards. You talk about the competitive fire that USF played with. I said it during our reaction. Florida looked like they were obligated to be there. Like someone told Florida, hey, I know you have a lot of things you would like to do on Saturday. However, we have a game against USF. You got to be there. And the Florida locker room kind of rolled their eyes, kind of mumbled under their breath and said, okay, fine. We're all getting paid how much from NIL? Okay, cool. We'll show up, whatever. And they played like it and got beat. And so as bad a look as that was, and as much as that game, I think, is just an eyesore on the rest of your schedule the rest of the way, I personally, to answer this question, have a hard time writing the obituary for a team in week 2 of the college football season. Okay? I have a harder time because as bad as it was, and it was bad, I can't say it enough, it was a bad look for Florida. They looked bad, they played bad, all that. It's still a team with top 15 roster talent. It's still a team to where if the lights come on upstairs and the intensity's where it's supposed to be and you're playing with the right level of, efficiency and just, on your P's and Q's about yourself, Florida can still be a team that goes out and makes some noise. Another thing I want to say here is the obituary for Billy Napier was already written in ink and typed up for us over here on this side of the desk after week 2 of last year's college football season against A&M. Now, here's the stark contrast between this year's obituary and last year's obituary that people are writing. The obituary last year, Billy Napier's dead because they lost to A&M and the schedule's really tough. However, before the schedule got really tough, you got to play teams like UCF, Mississippi State, Samford. You got a chance to kind of get your sea legs before you went and hit that stretch in October into November and played some of your tougher competition. Right now, though, your next 3 games are LSU, Miami, Texas. So there's not that chance to get right. And as bad as that is, as much as that's like, well, hey, that's JD, you say you're not writing the obituary on Billy Napier just yet. You keep telling me that, and then you just told me that schedule. Like, is he not cooked? I think if he was truly cooked, you wouldn't have stuck with him through the end of last year and seen the good things that he did at the end of last year. Like, if Billy Napier was truly on the hot seat like that, I don't think he would have made it to this year, and there would have been a more knee-jerk reaction to this loss. But here's what I do want to make sure we say. Why Florida lost to me, going back to the talent side of things, they lost for the same reasons Alabama lost to Florida State. Like, it's not so different. It wasn't a talent thing. I don't even think it's a culture thing. I think it's an intentionality thing. I think it's a thing where Florida, again, looked like they were told they had to play a football game, showed up, got beat. didn't want to be there. That's how it looked to me. And intentionality is different than culture. Culture to me is like, okay, we lost that game, and then midway through you see guys pointing fingers. You see arguments breaking out on the sideline. You have guys saying the wrong things post-game. You have guys on Twitter saying wild stuff about their own teammates. You got Instagram Live going. It's a bad look. Like, all that to me can be put in the bad culture bucket. I don't think that's Florida. I think there was a lot of stupid. I think that spitting on somebody is a ridiculous thing to do ever, much less in the context of a football game where you extend the drive and they go beat you. That's a horrible look. But there wasn't like this internal strife that I saw from Florida during that game or after that game. And quite frankly, I didn't see it a year ago where it would have made sense for that to be there after they lost to A&M. Like, the constant from this team since Billy Napier has been there is they play for Billy Napier. Even go back to the year where they won 6 games. I believe it was his first year there. Like, there were some moments where that team very much so could have thrown in the towel. It's a first-year coach. I'm going to hit the portal. I don't know why I'm here. Like, continue to finish strong and play through. And regardless of what that final record said, you could tell by watching that team, even in the first year, they played for Billy Napier. And then last year, too, with them playing the way they did down the stretch. Now, as tough as the schedule is, where do you go from here, I think is the question. Like, okay, JD would beat, Long Island, congratulations, in week 1, lost USF. We're staring down the barrel now of all the games that, we were trying to use these first 2 games to get geared up to go win, all right? So now where do we go from here? When you look at just these next 3 games, I need Florida to find a way. If this is salvageable, which again I think it is, need you to find a way to get 1, ideally 2 of these next 3. Is it asking a lot? Sure. Put yourself in the spot, man. Lose to USF, you get asked more of the rest of your schedule. Before, maybe you could have lost 2 of these. I don't know if that's really the world you want to be in. I need 1 of LSU, Miami, or Texas. The good news is Texas is looking human. Miami looked good against Notre Dame, so best of luck. LSU, they're my national title pick, so we'll see. I already picked them to lose that game. But you hear my point in all this. If you can win 1 to 2 of those games, ideally 2, you have a chance to kind of steady yourself, get morale back, get the train back on the tracks. Is that asking a lot? Again, yes, it is. But that's where you are right now. That is the situation you find yourself in. And if they didn't have the talent, it would be a much different discussion. I think they do have the talent. Now, can you activate it? Can you have the right intention? Can DJ Lagway look a little bit better? Of all those things. You're asking those things, and they have to be done. But the schedule, as tough as it is, while it's your greatest enemy in a lot of ways, it also would kind of be the advantage here in some sense for Florida. Because think about how they finished last year and just the conversation around Florida from the end of last season all the way through this offseason. In Florida, some people had them in their top 10. They're being talked about as a team that could be a playoff dark horse. I mean, we talked about that as much as on our show. Like, hey, if they go 9-3, it's a real conversation to be a playoff team. The reality is, though, you don't have all that momentum from the end of last year into this year if you finish with 3 wins in the regular season over Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Virginia. Oh, good for Florida. They finished strong against some average teams to bad teams. Like, good for Florida. Got the train back on the tracks, but like, okay, those are some pretty average teams. No, they did it against teams like LSU and ended Ole Miss's playoff hopes. There was like oh, wow, that's actually a pretty impressive filter to run this true freshman quarterback and that roster through. Okay, like maybe there's something there with Florida. So as much as it's frustrating that you have the schedule you have, those next 3 games, if you can go beat those caliber of teams, there should be some morale stabilized. Now, the fact that you lost USF, to add this in here, you lose, for me at least, the benefit of the doubt. Like before, maybe, if it was a record, let's call it, I don't want to say 8-4, but say you go 8-4, 9-3 in that range. That record to me now has a much different taste because you lost to USF than if you had beat USF and those 3 losses are to, a Texas, a Georgia, and a LSU. Like the benefit of the doubt there to me is very much so removed. So that's gone there. There's a chance now to kind of right the ship a little bit for yourself if you're Florida, but it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot because you put yourself in this spot where it has to take more because you lost to USF. So that's my take on it. Caden, we talked about this a fair amount the Sunday morning we came in here. After Florida lost to USF, we're banging out all our predictions, all our reactions to the games that we predicted during the week. You don't love Florida right now. I don't blame you. Just wax poetic for a minute on how you feel about this Florida team. Is this salvageable in your mind?
I think the answer is no.
Okay.
I don't think this is very salvageable. I think when you look at the reasons why people were so high on Florida coming into this year, and were willing to overlook the schedule was because of DJ Lagway and the momentum they created at the end of last season. Mm-hmm. I think the momentum's done now, man. The momentum train just ended by losing to South Florida. I think that puts an end to that. And on top of that, DJ Lagway did not look great in this game, and this is going to be probably one of the worst defenses he plays this entire season. And I think his health is still something to monitor and something that is something you're kind of just on pins and needles holding, waiting on him to hopefully stay healthy throughout the year, but something that just doesn't sit very well, I'm sure, with a lot of Florida fans. But you mentioned the 3-game stretch coming up, going to LSU, going to Miami, and then hosting Texas. They go to A&M right after that. To me, it's a 4-game stretch that they have to overcome. They have a lot to figure out in that stretch, and I don't think there's any room for them to figure that stuff out. They were an undisciplined team. They beat themselves, and if you're beating yourself in September, I can't expect you in the same month of September and October to just start beating teams that are going to have the talent equal or advantage on you. You mentioned Florida is one of the most talented, top 15 talented teams in the country. I don't think they're more talented than LSU. I don't think they're more talented than Miami. I don't think they're more talented than Texas. And then we'll get to Texas A&M and see. But, I mean, you missed your layup. I think them losing to South Florida and just the way they lost to South Florida, man, just beating themselves, being undisciplined, that's stuff that doesn't travel. That's stuff that does not beat teams that are more talented than you. And I think you look at their schedule, and for the most part, you're playing teams that are more talented than you. So, for me, I don't think this is salvageable. I would lean towards them not making a bowl game versus turning this around and being a 9-win team that we're talking about knocking on the college football playoff. I just can't see it right now.
So I don't think what you said is by any stretch unfair. I want to throw this at you with a runway of us looking to this upcoming Sunday. So we watch all the games. We have a great time. You and I are texting throughout the day with our thoughts and our reactions that we want to do with the Sunday sprint the following morning. Another reason to be subscribed. Let's say that we're watching Florida, and it's a great game between them and LSU. The lights are on at Florida. They got a pulse, wounded animal, however you want to phrase it. They play well against LSU. They go into Death Valley. They win by a touchdown, Caden. Let's say they win by a touchdown. I'm not saying if it could or wouldn't happen. Just put yourself in this position. They win by a touchdown in Baton Rouge. Do you feel different the Sunday morning after?
I guess you have to. You have to respect them going on the road against the number 3 team in the country and winning, obviously. But I think it would just speak to the volatility of this team. They could be as bad as a team losing to USF or as good as a team beating LSU. So I think it'd make you feel better, obviously, and you look at the rest of the schedule with the glass probably more half full than empty. But at the end of the day, we've already seen their floor. So it's about how high of a ceiling can they reach against these other teams. And if that ceiling is beating at LSU, then it is extremely high ceiling. But if it's what I think is going to happen is them playing a good game against LSU, maybe even covering the spread, that'd be great, optically for us talking about it and week in and week out talking about Florida's chances to win these games. But at the end of the day, the people in Gainesville do not care about that. They do not care if they cover the spread. They want to win. And I think even if it's a close loss to LSU, close loss to Miami, close loss to Texas, not making it and not getting those wins is what they care about down there. So I don't know, man. It feels a little grim. Obviously, we've seen plenty of teams get upset in the past and go on to do great things. We saw Notre Dame take one on the chin to NIU and make it to the national championship. I just don't think this coach and staff and roster has proven that they have that kind of mental fortitude and that culture to sustain that and to bounce back from this in a major way. Best case scenario is this is a proper wake-up call for them and they can turn things around immediately starting this Saturday. But even so, I think LSU is just too big of a mountain to climb, and I think that playing the number 3, 5, and 7 and 16 teams in the country is just an absolute gauntlet no matter what was going to happen in the South Florida game. I don't know if they'd be favored in any of those games, even if they beat South Florida. So
brutal.
Backs against the wall, man. And late last season, we saw them respond in a good way, but it's September, man. I think you still got to find out who you are, and if half of your games you're doing what you did against UCF, that's kind of half the reflection you're looking back at.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point there, which I meant to mention during the segment is, dude, what if this is the wake-up call they need? And this is sort of being a little bit too optimistic in that sense, but I do think it bears some conversation. If the problem is intentionality, well, you took all the margin for error that you had away with a loss to a G5 school, a good G5 school in Alex Golesh and USF, but you would hope that this can kind of be the, all right, now, hey, everybody, we awake now, but it's different being awake and having to play LSU, Miami, Texas A&M, and having to play against some lesser competition. So we'll see here, dude.
Yeah,
we'll see.
They're playing teams. Last thing I'll say,
I love it. No, I love it.
Like, even aside from the rankings and what we feel about this upcoming slate, every team they'll play has like gone toe to toe, gone under the heavy bar, as we say on this show. Like LSU is looked Clemson dead in the face and beaten them down to the wire game. Miami beat Notre Dame. Like Texas went to Ohio State. Like Florida State not only just lost to USF, but they have not even played a team remotely close to the caliber of the teams they're playing. Yep. So it's the writing on the walls for me, man. The writing is on the wall for me. I think salvageability is looking a little grim, but we'll see. That's why we play the games, right?
Plot thickens, man. Plot thickens, but it's going to be a super interesting thing to track the rest of the season any way you slice it. But if there was a time to wake up a little bit here, Florida, like now would be the freaking time. But I digress. Be a great stretch for us to watch as college football fans with the unfortunate Hunger Games that Florida has drawn. That is their schedule. But from one school in the Sunshine State, not great vibes, to another school, it's got tremendous vibes, and that's Florida State. I want to answer the accusations we've been getting on this side of the microphone as it pertains to the Seminoles of Florida State, because we do our rankings every single Sunday morning from the games that we've seen so far. There's a little bit of, I don't want to say we have a preformed opinion about any of these teams beforehand, but we also take into account the games that we saw a season ago, or at least at the end of last season, or what we are questioning about a team. So to give us a better jumping off point here, I had Florida State in my rankings outside the top 10, had them at number 12. Now the AP had them at 10. No problem with that. Good for the AP. I have Florida State at 12, and we had people in the mentions, in the comments section, in the DMs like, brother, I don't know what your deal is. I don't know why you hate Florida State. I don't know why you're anti-Noles. I don't know why you don't like Mike Norvell and Thomas Castellanos. They just beat Bama. What has South Carolina done? And I was like, whoa, hey, hang on just a second here. Hang on just a second. I'm the same dude now that put Florida State in the playoff a year ago. Had them in the playoff, and then guess what? Egg on my face, crow in my mouth, shame in my heart, 2-10. So for me personally, I'm like, I love what I saw against Bama. I'm in a Miami hotel room with Caden Smith watching Alabama, Florida State on a laptop and just cackling at the Gus Malzahn clinic and juice box, just extraordinaire he was putting on offensively. Thomas Castellanos just scored again. I thought it was incredible. The story was incredible. I was happy for Mike Norvell because a lot of people were talking crazy about him. I was happy for Thomas Castellanos. But while I say all that, as much as I enjoyed that and was impressed by that, and even the belt to behind they did to East Texas A&M the following weekend, I still want to see a little bit more. Is that a crime? Is that so wrong? When you got trust issues, when you get burned one time, maybe, just maybe, you want to give them more than 2 weeks in the college football season, and only one of those games being against a Power 4 school. I don't think we're off base here. I don't think we're saying anything crazy, having Florida State at 12 instead of 10. I am as pro Mike Norvell as a coach as I think probably there is right now in college football. I think he and what he's done at Florida State is nothing short of remarkable. Nothing short of remarkable. I think what you see now for Florida State and what I want to make sure we're aligned on when it comes to how I view Florida State, I think the top end is real, dude. I think it's very real. I think when Florida State is on, they have proven they are, one, like they're on, and two, they're good enough to, I think, hang with anybody in college football. Because as much as you want to say, well, what's Bama? Bama didn't come to play. Bama didn't this. Bama didn't that. All that is true. Bama still is, one, super freaking talented, and two, Florida State did come to play. Florida State was playing with some aggression, some initiative, all the things they had lacked the year before, which caused them to win 2 football games. All that was gone. A big part of that, who you got at quarterback, who your new coordinators are, the 40-plus new players that you got from the recruiting class out of high school and also the portal. All that seems to be in a better spot. But I am not going to apologize to say, okay, that's awesome. Let me see another game. Let me see them go play Virginia on a Friday night. I keep going to that game because that game is one weekday game, so it's kind of a clunky routine for your football team when it comes to your week of practice, a little bit different. Also, Virginia's not getting anybody super fired up to go play ball, are they? When it comes to like that logo you see on the countdown clock in your locker room, different than seeing the script day, right? So I know the top-end talent is there for Florida State. I just want to see a little bit more data. I don't think that's so wrong. So as much as I think in the context of this very season, you could say, yeah, Florida State has in some ways you could say through 2 weeks, maybe a top 10 resume. I don't think that's incorrect to say. I would probably co-sign that in some respects. But if we're trying to give a truly all-encompassing view of what these teams are right now, yes, I'm going to factor in a little bit what I saw at the end of last year. And that's not me penalizing you. That's just me, I think, using some good context as to what we think this team is going to be down the road. This year's team is not last year's team, 100% true. But I want to see what the players respond like that were on last year's team. If it's not Alabama on the other sideline, if it's not the game of the week for some folks on their college football slate, what is Florida State then? I don't doubt they can do it. I just want to see a little bit more before I put them in the top 10. Because success in college football at its most simple, most basic level is having a standard set internally for yourself at the highest level possible, and then every single Saturday and every single week during practice, meeting that or being as close to that as possible so you get the result you want. Like, results are one thing. Approach is a whole other thing. Approach is really what I think defines most college football teams. Way of doing things, culture, success. It's not a mistake that Kirby Smart and Georgia have been a wagon with different teams, different coordinators, and personnel. Why? Because the way of doing things has stayed the same. Same thing with Saban's and Bama. Same thing with Ryan Day at Ohio State. Like, that is the formula. That is the process. How far along is Florida State in those things? Now, if they go win the next couple of games and they're looking like a wagon that they are, okay, awesome. Top 10 team. No question about it. There's no anti-Florida State narrative here. Again, I root for Castellanos, root for Mike Norvell, and also I want to make sure we say this. I'm not putting a governor at all on what I think Florida State can be in the context of this college football season. Like, if you're telling me, hey, JD, we can go win the ACC, I'm saying absolutely you can go win the ACC. Clemson's not blowing me away. Miami, they just woke up, it looked like, to playing real football on the defensive side of the ball with Corey Heatherman playing or running the DC over there. Like, I'm not telling you can't go win the ACC. JD, we could be a team that, maybe finds ourselves in that college football playoff discussion. Would that be surprising? Yeah, 100%. Is it out of the realm of possibility 2 weeks into the season? I don't think so. Am I predicting that right now? I mean, let's just take a second here, but I'm not putting a governor on what Florida State can be. I just want to see a little bit more of it before I tell you you're absolutely a top 10 team, you're absolutely making the playoff, you're absolutely all these things. Give it some runway. Give it a second. So we're pro Florida State on this show, and top 12 in the country. I thought it was pretty fair, personally, but neither here nor there. So speaking of the ACC, we got a good one in the ACC. Coworker Zach Herbstreit has this as his under-the-radar game of the week. It's Clemson going to Georgia Tech, going to Cato's neck of the woods, man. Bobby Dodd Stadium, noon Eastern, ESPN. Clemson favored by 3.5, according to BetMGM. Now, Clemson, preseason, we're all picking them to win the national. I say we. A lot of people in our space picking them to win the national championship, picking them to be a team that's a lock for the college football playoff. We had them in the playoff, had them winning the ACC. All those things are true. But 2 weeks in, the loss to LSU, you kind of give them a little pass and say, LSU's going to be good, right? Some people picked them to win the national championship. Neither here nor there. Then you play Troy. Let down spot against Troy. Okay, don't love getting down 16-zip at your place. Weather delay happens. You get it together. But there's still this feeling for me of hey, come on now, Clemson. Come on now. I know it's 2 weeks into the season, but come on now, babe. Had this coach that would always say that whenever you wanted more out of you at practice, need a little more urgency. Running back coach, come on now, babe. Come on now, babe. That's how I feel about Clemson. Come on now. Come on. It's 2 weeks in. We got Georgia Tech now. You got to go to their place. Sleepy noon kick. A gritty, grimy, scrappy Brent Key coach football team. Come on now. Going to take a little bit more here than what we showed against Troy. And for Georgia Tech, if you win this game, I don't want to overdo this. I don't want to be hyperbolic or hot takey. This is one of those wins, if you're Georgia Tech, that could change everything, is the feeling I get with this. Remember when Tennessee beat Bama in 2022? And it felt like from that point forward, credit Tennessee, they capitalized on that going forward. But it felt like the entire narrative around Josh Heupel, around Tennessee, just kind of shifted in his second year as the head coach out there. That could be this game. Now, it's early in the season, still early in Brent Key's time at Georgia Tech, but still, year two, similar conversation of the big dog in the conference in Clemson, the big dog in what Alabama was in the SEC with Saban. If you slay the dragon and everyone sees it, changes the conversation around how Georgia Tech, I think, is perceived in the ACC going forward. Definitely this year. Maybe it changes the recruiting juice. Maybe it changes. There's a total facelift that I think would happen into the perception of Georgia Tech football if you win a game like this over that other logo. I think I'm not overstating that. Also, in the context of this season, going back to that, you get past Clemson and you're undefeated, Georgia Tech could be one of those teams that kind of just jogs their way to Charlotte. Not saying it's an easy path, but I am saying Georgia Tech, there's not another game on the schedule that is more difficult than this one. So the stakes are massive for Georgia Tech. There's no way around that. For Clemson, non-negotiable in this game, we got to protect Cade Klubnik. Have to protect Cade Klubnik. The McShay Show with Todd McShay and Mensch do a phenomenal job, and I heard them talking about this week, and I went to double-check what they were saying. They're nervous about how Cade Klubnik is being protected on the offensive line. And it's not really so much a thing where these guys haven't, got good chemistry or good synergy or any of those things. They're just straight up getting beat by some of these guys. And LSU is one thing. LSU's got some players in that front seven. They're going to make a lot of money on Sundays. I'm watching Troy get pressure with 4 and not even be super exotic, but we got just a stunt in the inside. We got an edge defender going up and under on our right tackle, making him look silly, getting home on Cade Klubnik. And I'm like, if that's what Troy's doing, what's a Power 4 football team going to do? And that's not to knock Troy. It's just for Cade Klubnik, as excited as you are about him, he's kind of the key to this whole thing, right? If you're picking Clemson to win the ACC or picking Clemson to do anything in the context of this season, the phrase, well, we got Cade Klubnik, or, well, we got one of the best quarterbacks in college football, is worked into your argument some way, somehow. So if he is going to be, at best, neutralized, at worst, minimized in this game because Georgia Tech is getting pressure on him, it's going to be a very uncomfortable viewing experience for the good folks that travel to Atlanta for this game. Non-negotiable for Georgia Tech, you have got to be able to get something in the pass game. And when I say something, Clemson's going to give you a little something. You'll watch that Troy game back, Clemson will give you some man coverage that you can dial up some winners for. You can get some soft coverage. It felt like Troy, especially early in this game, a lot of easy access throws they were hitting on, getting their quarterback in rhythm. We'll see who's playing quarterback for Georgia Tech in this game. Haynes King didn't play last week. Brent Keys said we'll kind of assess that as we go on throughout the week. I am not a doctor. I have no intel at all whatsoever on the situation. So I hope that's a good enough disclaimer for how I feel about this thing. But you watch Haynes King play football, you watch just how that dude seems to throw himself at linebackers and have no regard for his body or his own life. I think he's a competitor. I think it's Clemson. I personally would be a touch surprised if we didn't see him give it a go, neither here nor there. But regardless, whoever's playing quarterback got to be able to get something on the pass game, some of the easy access throws to try and just keep this box of Clemson honest a little bit. The matchup I'm watching, though, is the Georgia Tech backfield. Whoever's carrying the ball against the Clemson, what I would call second-level aggression of those linebackers. Because Brent Venables no longer calling the defense out there at Clemson. Tom Allen is. They kind of run the same temperature. Those linebackers at Clemson trigger so freaking quickly. See key, see ball, get ball, we're downhill, we're getting there with bad intentions. And Troy did a really good job of almost using that flow of the Clemson defense against them. I mean, they were just running the inside zone like it was their job. Linebacker triggers, he's coming downhill, little cutback, we're upfield, 7-yard gain. Cool, first down. It was kind of that vibe from Troy. Can Georgia Tech do that? Because if they can, it's out the back door. It's out the back door. Big plays are happening for the Jackets. Bobby Dodd's on fire at noon, and you're like, oh boy, here we go. Yet again, down early in the first half for Clemson. But if not now, if Clemson's getting there with bad intentions, they're blowing the spot up with no problem, and they're reading their keys, taking a good angle, all those things, and form fitting my guy up in the hole. Well, if that happens, then guess what? Georgia Tech has to be in more obvious passing situations. If that's the case, Clemson's about to hunt, dude. It's going to be red dot city for the folks out there at Georgia Tech. It's not going to be a good situation. A lot of tackles for a loss, a lot of passing downs. That favors Clemson. Other matchup to watch here for Clemson, some receivers got to go win, dude. Got to go win. That's been the conversation for Clemson over the course of really the last 2-ish years is, well, now we think we have guys that can go cut it loose for us. If you have guys that can go win on the perimeter and win somewhat quickly, well, then that conversation around the protection for Clemson, that gets dialed back a little bit. Because guess what? I don't have to block for 2 Mississippis. If Bryant Wisco is winning at the line of scrimmage, he's already open. Klubnik, give him a ball. We're upfield. We're running tempo. We're good to go. Like, that would be a world you want to live in. Also, maybe as importantly as that, Clemson did not have a great showing against LSU when it came to running the football. Better against Troy, especially in the second half. But if we're throwing the football, we're commanding a light box. Okay, great. Numbers, much better for us to run the ball into. Maybe Trevor Etienne's not there anymore. That's okay. We can still run the ball when we have more to we have more to block than you have to defend in that situation. And if that's the world you're living in, and Cade Klubnik kind of gets to play games with you where we're running the RPO stuff, you're not sure how to play it, we got Wisco downfield, TJ Moore downfield, all that is going to be very impactful on this game. So here's my prediction on this game. I think that Georgia Tech is certainly capable of beating this Clemson team. There's no question about that. I think the spread indicates that as well. I think there's a chance for this game to get weird early if Clemson starts slow, but I do think that the slow start from Clemson against Troy, and I think the way that they lost the LSU game, I think Clemson should have their attention on this game properly, if that makes sense. There shouldn't be a sleepy Clemson. There shouldn't be a ho-hum Clemson, because that's the Clemson that gets beat on the road here, to be 100% clear. That's the kind of Clemson that would get beat. I don't think that kind of Clemson shows up. I think Clemson goes out and wins the game. I think they cover. I think final score here is Clemson, call it 27. I think Georgia Tech 17. So Clemson wins and covers at Bobby Dodd. We all kind of take a breath. Oh, okay, that's the team that we thought was going to win the ACC. Awesome. Good to see y'all. Come on now, babe. Here we go. So that's Clemson, Georgia Tech. I think Clemson, again, wins and covers. Going from the ACC to the All-SEC, man. Vandy at South Carolina, 7:45 Eastern Time, SEC Network, Willie B. If you were tuned into the offseason, and the chatter that was, and if you were tuned in here, then you already were tuned into the offseason, so thank you for that. Again, make sure you're subscribed. Diego Pavia went on Bussin' with the Boys, little Nashville operation as well, and they asked him, hey, what game do you maybe have circled right now on your schedule preseason? Diego Pavia, he doesn't lack for something to say, especially in a prompt like that. And he said, Game 3, Week 3 action. This is Week 3. He's excited about going to South Carolina. So I'm excited to see what happens here. Vanderbilt, again, at South Carolina. South Carolina favored by 5.5, according to BetMGM. If I'm South Carolina and I want to be a college football playoff team, you beat teams that you're more talented than. Now, Vanderbilt is building. I'm a Diego Pavia stan. I think what Clark Lee has done there is phenomenal, but South Carolina has more talent than Vanderbilt. If you're a playoff team, you win games like this. On the flip side, if you're Vanderbilt, you want respect. Go get a win at one of the toughest places to play in college football, that is Willie B. Go silence that place at night. You keep saying, we want to be respected. We want to be a team that's taken seriously, a seat at the table. Beating Bama is a start for sure. It's definitely the first chapter of the book, or the poster for your conversation around being a team taken seriously in the SEC. But you go beat a team in South Carolina at their place at night in Week 3. Okay, now, hey, hang on, everyone, check with me. Hang on. This is something to really watch in that sense. Now, if you want to be at this game, quick plug here. Want to be at this game, the best way to do that is with the sponsor of the show. That's Game Time. I promise you, right now, if you went to the Game Time app and you searched in Vanderbilt at South Carolina, you'd get, a ton of options. You'd get the best prices. You'd have a safe, easy way to buy, and also be able to see the view from your seat before you even purchase. So you're not out there sitting in a bad seat in Willie B and watching Diego Pavia cut up or Lenore Sellers do something crazy. You're able to actually have a perfect seat because you knew your view from your seat before you even paid money for it, which is a great deal via Game Time. Now, if you want to save some money, hear me clearly. Download the Game Time app. Use code HARDCOUNT, right? HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, code HARDCOUNT, HARDCOUNT. Swipe, tap, ticket, download the Game Time app today. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets and get yourself to this game for the best price, all right? So, keys to this game for me. A non-negotiable, Vanderbilt, you have got to stay ahead of the sticks. It's kind of like football jargon. You hear people say, got to stay ahead of the sticks. Got to stay on schedule. All that means is don't find yourself in an obvious passing third down. And for Vanderbilt, to distill it down to what they really are, they are kind of a supercharged option offense. Like you watch the academies, it's not all that different than what Vanderbilt's doing. I ran this offense in high school, the academy offense. The key to this is getting 3 yards a carry. It's math, right? 1st and 10, 2nd and 7. You're living in 3rd and 4. You get yourself to 4th and 1. Okay, we can convert that. Now, I'm being a little bit, oversimplifying this when it comes to the 3 yards a carry. But, if you're 3.3 yards a carry, you're picking up first downs, taking the air out of the clock. Lenore Sellers is watching. It's a great vibe for you. For South Carolina, you have got to you've got to keep away from the ugly game. You know what I'm saying? The ugly just, oh, man, what's two picks in the first half from Lenore Sellers? Man, a special team dropped the snap, because what you want to avoid is losing possessions that you would otherwise have, hand them over to Diego Pavi and Eli Stowers and Clark Lee and company. They're just cool, we'll make it a thing where we just choke this time of possession out. And that'll be kind of how we play this game. It'll be ugly, it'll be low scoring, and we'll be more than happy to leave Williams-Brice with 40 minutes of time possession favoring us, much like it did that game in Nashville where Alabama rolled in and took an L. Time possession for Vanderbilt was 40 minutes. For Vanderbilt now, you go back and watch that Va Tech game. For those of y'all that don't like us saying Va Tech, the Virginia Tech game, however you want to slice it, they did not play the quarterback run game well at all. At all, in my opinion. You saw a lot of read option stuff where the angle they took was typically, we're going to crash on the inside zone. Okay, so we're telling your quarterback we want you to pull it. Not a great move with Lawrence Sellers. I digress. And then when we play our quarterback man, we're going to come way upfield. We're going to try and just cut him off at the hip, try to make sure we contain. And I like the idea, but they were filling the edge so hard. They were attacking the edge so hard. They were overrunning the play. And then you had someone out there accounting for an RPO on the perimeter, which Virginia Tech did a good job of doing. And it was just wide open spaces. Green Acres is the place to be for Kyron Drones, just running roughshod downhill. And for Kyron Drones, that much real estate, it's a first down. It's, 17-ish yards potentially, depending on how you want to divvy it up. It's a solid gain. For Lenora Sellers, it's a freaking home run. See you later. 80 yards to the crib. Peace. Diego Pavia, your ball. That's not a world you can live in here. So for Vanderbilt, we got to go back to the drawing board and find a better way to defend the read option, the quarterback run. Because if you roll out there with the same approach you did against Kyron Drones, you're not going to have a good time on Saturday. It'll be a bad vibe. It'll be very loud, and you won't enjoy yourself because you'll lose the football game. For South Carolina now, the eye discipline of the secondary, it's the total mind game of what the option football provides here. Because the academies are so successful with this because they got a bunch of dudes that are going to go serve in the military. They are disciplined to a T. The academies and Vanderbilt are saying, we're more disciplined than you at running our stuff. At some point in time, you're going to get got. Now, they're a little bit more nuanced than the academies is Vanderbilt. But the point being here, a lot of motion pre-snap, a lot of ball fakes, a lot of we're putting in the belly, we're making a fake pitch, we're dropping back, a lot of just window dressing. And over the course of a game now, when you see inside zone a bunch, when you see a bunch of the same options, you get a little bit annoyed making a tackle at 4 yards, 6 yards, you start to trigger quickly. And Virginia Tech did a horrible job of this. Got caught with their eyes in the backfield, hand in the cookie jar, someone's downfield behind the defense, Diego Pavia, give him a ball, strike up the band, it's on and popping. That was Vanderbilt against Virginia Tech. If South Carolina does that against Vanderbilt, if that happens for South Carolina on defense and Vanderbilt plays the quarterback the same way on defense, cash in the over early on this thing because there'll be a lot of points scored. So I think this comes down to, for me, who's able to push this game to their style? Who's able to bend this game to their will? Because I just told you, Vanderbilt, they want the Bama special. Now, they want to score points, don't get it twisted, but if they can hold the ball for 40 minutes, they'll do that. They'll have a great time doing it because Lenora Sellers, again, doesn't get to play football. Has to watch. Has to say, come on, defense, here we go now. Okay, we'd rather have them doing that than taking a snap, right? Keeps the ball in your best player's hands in Diego Pavia and keeps their best player on the sideline. For South Carolina, I think the key for them in this spot now, if you want to tilt the game, Nick Harper, baby. No track this spring. Fastest human being, not just on the field, in the entire stadium. Probably in a good 3-mile radius of this game. We got to pop the top on this team early. If we get up 14-0, dare I say 17-0, obviously 10-0 is not enough based on what Virginia Tech was, but we get up a healthy 2 touchdowns, and Vanderbilt has to maybe abandon their slower, methodical way of doing things offensively, now we go. And Nick Harbor is just one example, but I think he's maybe the prime suspect to do something like this because we saw him do it against Virginia Tech, funny enough, with the common opponent they have. I'd love to see a deep strike from them early, push the tempo, push the pace, and now we go. So my prediction here for this game, South Carolina looked bad last week against South Carolina State, and Vanderbilt looked awesome. Same thing we just said about our most recent prediction. South Carolina should be awake here, is my bet. Now, it's always a tricky game, betting in college football, but that plus the home field, plus I have to believe now the good folks of South Carolina made sure their locker room saw the Diego Pavia clip from this offseason saying he's excited for week 3. Okay. I'm going to take South Carolina to win. I'm going to take them to cover. I think the final score, 28-21. I wouldn't touch this for the record when it comes to the spread, but if you get any juice at all in the money line with BetMGM, I would take South Carolina to win this game. But 2 great quarterbacks, 2 great coaches, to keep it a buck. It'd be a lot of fun. Get fired up for that one. Great game in week 3. Now, one more breakdown here for us. Wisconsin to Alabama. JD, why are you breaking down Wisconsin and Bama? Bama's a 20.5-point favorite. Yeah, they were also a 13.5-point favorite against Florida State. All right, I digress. Noon Eastern, ABC, Bryant-Denny Stadium, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Wisconsin at Bama. Bama, 20.5-point favorite. For Alabama, it is once again about your standard. Once again, it's about you. You got better players. You got how do I say this the correct way? The 2 deep for Bama is better than the 2 deep for Wisconsin. You got more depth. You got more top-end talent, all those things. So when you are favored by that many points, it's about, are you able to meet your own standard, your own way of doing things, the Bama standard, all those things. So you didn't do that week 1, looked better this past weekend. Can you do it against the Power 4 opponent now in Wisconsin? And Wisconsin, cut them loose, man. Smoke them if you got them. You're 2-0. Luke Fickell. I love the persona of what Luke Fickell brings to Wisconsin. They kind of got back to their roots now after being a little bit more, I don't want to say air-raid. They were never air-raid, but they tried to be a more pass-happy offense. It didn't work, and they said, okay, let's get back to neck rolls, fullbacks, line of scrimmage football. Jeff Grimes can call the offense. Let's do some wide zone stuff. Let's get downhill. They're now back to that. They got nothing to lose in this game. 3 touchdown dogs on the road. Cool. Let's go. So I think the scrappy persona of Luke Fickell with a wrestling background himself, Wisconsin's got to embody that in this spot. Has got to embody that. Now, I just told you what I think Alabama's going to want to try and be. They're going to try and stop the run. Okay, like if you stop the run, you cut the problem off at the head. You cut that snake off at the head, it's dead. If Wisconsin can't run the football, game over. If you told me the rushing total right now for Wisconsin, I think I got to tell you what the final score is. Neither here nor there. Now, for Wisconsin, anytime you're a 3-touchdown dog, you got to find a way to get some extra possessions. Have to. Now, whether that's a fake punt, whether that is a turnover, whether that's an onside kick, it's non-negotiable. Like, I don't know how it's going to happen. I just know that it needs to happen when it comes to what Wisconsin's going to be in this football game. So we talk about the scrappy edge, all those things of a Luke Fickell coach football team. Got to see it in the spot. Especially with the time of us recording this right now. We're still a little bit TBD on who's going to be playing quarterback for Wisconsin. Neither here nor there. Quick pause on the game break, or on the game breakdown, rather. If you're going to be at this game in Tuscaloosa, good news, the Whataburger truck will be there as well. Again, September 13th, Alabama, Wisconsin. Whether you're cheering for the Tide or whether you're making the trip out to Tuscaloosa to root on your Badgers, during your tailgate, make sure you drop by the Whataburger truck and get ready to bring home the W early with a hot, fresh Whataburger in hand. And no matter who comes out on top, whether it's Bama, whether it's Wisconsin, doesn't matter, you know that you're on top of it and got your team a W with Whataburger, taking them. You'll feel like a winner with food made fresh and hot every single time, 24/7. Whataburger will make sure you get right. See you at the game. See you at the Whataburger. People in Texas know, man, Whataburger, it's a delicacy. It's a treat. It'll be at this game, so make sure you go ahead and get locked in there over at the Whataburger truck. But Wisconsin, with them being a 3-touchdown dog, I think we need to talk about this. It takes no courage to pick Alabama to win this game. How would Wisconsin win? If Wisconsin can get something going on the ground early, the wide zone offense from Jeff Grimes, the premise of it is we're going to work angles as opposed to us working our personnel, rather. Like, we know, Bama, you got dudes. We're not going to just go man on man and dominate you up front. What we are going to do, though, is try to beat you to the corner, put your edge defender in conflict. He overruns it, we're upfield. He tucks inside, we're around that. We're out to the numbers, we're getting downhill that way. And so if you're the tackle for Wisconsin, you're the tight end for Wisconsin here, I don't need you to overpower him. I just need you to be able to, speed bump's the wrong way to put it, but I need you to kind of just displace him a little bit. All right, now you can't totally get pushed back and be put into the lap of the running back, but if we can do that, we have a chance, because then we're living 2nd and 7, then we're living 3rd and 3, then we're living in some manageable down distances. This Wisconsin offense, getting back to the roots, it's not built to throw the ball downfield. Now, however, if you're able to get something going on the ground, guess what? Bama starts to get a little bit more trigger happy. Play close to the line of scrimmage. When that happens, we have got to hit on explosives. Jaden Ballard is a transfer wide receiver from Ohio State to Wisconsin. Not a lot of people are talking about him right now. I think his skill set as a deep threat is going to be paramount in this game if Wisconsin wants to win. Heck, if Wisconsin wants to cover, Jaden Ballard's got to have a day. They got some other receivers, but I think his talent level and him being in this offense now with that matchup against that secondary, I think he needs to have a day. Okay, so that's very, very much so something that needs to be noted ahead of this game if you're Wisconsin. So that's Wisconsin if they were to win the football game. But going back to my point that I said at the top of this thing, it's about Alabama. It's about Bama. It's about them playing to their standard, playing their brand of ball, and not playing with lack of intentionality like we saw against Florida State, and playing with just a certain sense of urgency in that same vein, you know? I think Ty Simpson is where this starts for me. He played fine against Florida State, but I want to see him be the dude here. You know what I mean by that. Like, how many times have you seen your team look a little bit lackluster, first quarter, second quarter, whatever, they come out at halftime? Who usually is the guy that turns the tide? Quarterback. Who's the guy that sets the temperature for your football team? Your quarterback. The good ones, at least. And Ty Simpson, I know it's early, brother, in your career when it comes to being the starting quarterback at Alabama, but I need you to be the catalyst for us to go win football games here in 2025. Like, if we make the playoff, it's on you. It's on you. And that's not just because the Kalen DeBoer system is quarterback-centric. That's not just the only reason. It's we have to have our guy that touches the football every single play, not just be the starting quarterback, but be the dude. Have the it factor. Have the intensity that we need here. And honestly, I'm here for my quarterbacks being even keel. I'd love to see Ty Simpson get after somebody here in the first half. I'd love to see him lay into somebody on the sideline. I think this team needs that juice, needs that edge, because that's when Bama's at their best. In the same vein, this is a line of scrimmage gut check for Bama. Now, Wisconsin, they're not the Wisconsin of old, as of right now at least. They're not the Barry Alvarez Wisconsin. But still, it's not going to be a small task up front with how they're going to play against that D-line for Wisconsin. Like, the lightest person in the interior of Wisconsin's D-line is 299. You go check out that depth chart, a whole bunch of like 320, 330, 315. Like, there's some mass in the middle of that defense for Wisconsin. Bottom line, better eat your Wheaties, take your caffeine pills. You better be ready to roll, man, when you get off that bus and go play that game in Bryant-Denny Stadium, because there will be a force that is looking to be immovable against yourself on that line of scrimmage. And so for Bama, if you can't run the ball against Wisconsin, this gets interesting, gets uncomfortable. Remains to be seen. So the pick in this game, I think Bama's going to play like they're still mad about the Florida State game. I think you see Ty Simpson play clean. I think you see him come more into his element. I don't know how Wisconsin scores points in this game is my only frustration here. They opened the season scoring 17 points against a MAC opponent. It's not me knocking the MAC. It's just like if you're scoring 17 against that caliber of football team, I don't think you're getting enough in this game to beat Alabama. So I think Alabama wins. I think Bama covers. And I think, once again, a big exhale weekend in college football. I think you say, if you're a Bama fan, okay, week one still sucks, but we looked good against Wisconsin. What could we be? Remains to be seen, but that's my vibe. That's my vibe on Alabama as it stands right now. Okay, we're about to jump into some Oklahoma talk. Before we do that, though, any take on Bama, any pulse on Bama now 2 weeks removed, I guess, more or less, from the embarrassment that was in Tallahassee, Florida?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, similar to the Florida conversation we were having before, I'm just trying to bounce back from a tough loss. I think Alabama is just a lot more built for it. You have the ULM game, obviously, to tune things up, and they look like you want a team like Alabama to look in those games. Ty Simpson didn't have a ball touch the ground, 17 for 17. Like, that's what you want, and I think Kalen DeBoer and this Alabama team have been hearing the outside noise, and I think they're going to be very intentional about trying to push that Florida State game back as far as possible. Like, hey, maybe Florida State's really good this year. Maybe they win the ACC. Maybe the loss doesn't look as bad as it did. But at the end of the day, when you watch that game optically, they got outplayed, they got out physical, they got out efforted. And I think they're trying to now set a new tone, had a hard reset from the ULM game forward, and show that they still have those traditional things that we come to see about Alabama. It'll all culminate probably in that game against Georgia, and we'll really see how they look compared to week one, and that'll be the big comparison. But I think because of that, this 20.5, I think if Kalen DeBoer can blow this spread out the water, he will. And I think with this Wisconsin team and a lot of their, lack of strengths, their weaknesses, I think they can get attacked in a major way. We see Jam Miller might be questionable. He might be coming back as well. So I think on top of that, a lot of Alabama's guys all throughout their depth chart got a lot of run and a lot of burn in their last game, and they'll probably have a little bit of confidence to them as well. I think Alabama tries to make this one sloppy and continues to try to make us forget about what happened in week one at Florida State.
I 100% agree. And I think, too, when we juxtapose Bama and Florida, the Alabama, you just mentioned structure and the coaching staff, Kalen DeBoer's coached in a national championship.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on Billy Napier. It's just a hat tip to Kalen DeBoer. Like, dude has coached in the biggest game the sport has to offer when it comes to a trophy awarded after the game. Like, he's got that kind of chops. And so you would like to think, having been around a team of that caliber, you know what it takes to compose yourself, to be able to go week to week and be about the right things. Not saying Billy Napier doesn't, but Kalen DeBoer has been up close and personal, had his hands on a team like that at Washington that you would like to think is going to pay dividends here for Alabama, which I think is a big reason why they hired him.
Yeah, and right behind the national championship, there's the Sun Belt championship with which Billy Napier has coached in against my App State Mountaineers. He gave us a big L that day. That one hurt, and that led to him going to Florida. But no, I think it's funny when you talk about some of these top teams in the country and how they've come out the gate. Alabama, Florida, like teams like that, the questions are like from the neck up, and the mentality and the coaching and the culture. Arch Manning didn't look too hot in his first game against Texas, but everything else around Texas, like we're not questioning some of those things that we're questioning about the teams I just mentioned. Like same with I'm trying to think of who else off the top of my head. Like Clemson, a little scary. Like they look very volatile. Like you like a lot of what you saw, especially defensively against LSU. Then against Troy, we don't look very good. So it's kind of interesting to see from a discipline, from a just culture and like a togetherness and just playing complementary, smart, good football and parlaying that with many of the teams that have plenty of talent.
Sure.
It's going to be very curious to see who in the country is just on their P's and Q's week in and week out, who can shake some of the cobwebs we've seen early in the season and just be consistent. A lot of that is quarterback play. We know there's a lot of new quarterbacks across the country, but I think that's just one of the main storylines just to follow throughout the year. And I think that's kind of the reason why you pick a team like Georgia to win in the spot against Tennessee. You trust Kirby Smart, those traits, that culture in this spot more than some of the other just all over the placeness we've seen across the country. We don't know what Tennessee is quite going to be, but I think that's just one example. And there's going to be many examples, I think, across the country this week specifically where we learn maybe more than we have this entire year who a team truly is, because it's like the second time they've had their back against the wall or have had a couple weeks of practice under their belt to kind of get into the routine. So I'm excited about this matchup regardless to see how Alabama just looks and if they can continue to look the part compared to how they looked in week one.
One more thing I'll say, Cato. These guys are getting paid now. Yeah. And I don't know if that's the thing you point to, because it is week 2. Everyone looks a little bit sloppy at some point during the first month of the season, whether that shows up in the box score, whether you just see it when you watch a game back. But I'll tell you what, if you're getting paid several $100,000, that might make you look a little bit less intentional with how you operate. I'm not pointing fingers, but I am just saying it's very curious to me now in the world we live in where players are getting paid, and we're talking about these teams that are super talented, and I have to believe probably have a pretty penny behind their rosters, just so happen to lack intentionality in some games that maybe they should have a better showing it, or better showing is the kind of way to put it. Should win, quite frankly. Maybe should win, but
yeah, I think that's kind of the art versus the science of the portal. It's like teams are going to have. There are certain teams in the country that are going to have giant budgets, can put together on paper a great roster. There's going to be several teams every year that just put themselves in that position. Which coaches and coaching staffs can kind of paint between the lines and make the cohesion there, make the culture there, despite where this player came from, where that player came from, who can really put it all together and make it work. Because team chemistry, all those little things, like that's where it starts to show up. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward, like which coaches are the best at having that work, despite the NIL, despite the portal. That might even out here in a little bit. We all have talent. We have all talent that comes from all across the country, and we're all paying for that talent. Who can now put that to the side, create the most cohesive game plan, and create a culture that makes it to where these guys are putting their money where their mouth is? I think that's something to watch here coming up too.
That was a great point, Caden. That's why I love Dan Lanning. Another conversation for another time. But neither here nor there. Let's wrap up today with a what's real discussion in college football. If you haven't yet called in, 629-888-3931. Go ahead and give us a call there. Leave a voicemail. What you believe is real in college football 2 weeks through the season. Because this part of the college football calendar, we got 2 data points, maybe 3 if you're an Iowa State or a Kansas State fan. And so with so few data points, we're all making conclusions week in and week out, but those data points aren't necessarily reliable enough to say a ton of definitive things. Like even if you have a definitive take, there's a chance that that's maybe not all the way accurate. Think about what we said a year ago. Miller Moss this time a year ago is a Heisman guy. This time a year ago, Quinn Ewers, Heisman guy. Didn't pan out that way. Not knocking those guys, just kind of the way the whole thing shook out. But what I do think is real right now, after week 2 of the college football season, is Oklahoma is going to be a wagon. I think they can win any game they play in. And I know it's intense hype after week 2. I know they got to go to Temple, noon kick, ESPN2, neither here nor there. But there's several things that I think that statement being real, coming back to the things that are real within this program. All right, and the first of those is that defense is made of the real stuff. Okay, now, I like saving money as much as the next guy. Catch me in Publix, catch me in CVS. I'm buying the off-brand thing so long as it tastes and feels like the real thing, okay? Off-brand, Coca-Cola, like we could go down the rabbit hole there of the off-brand items that I buy. But with that being said, this defense for Oklahoma is not an off-brand Brent Venables defense. It's not a different color of red with a funny Coke logo on there. It's like, no, that's Coca-Cola, brother. That is the real thing. That is downhill. That is aggressive. That is violent. That is everybody on the same page. That is the right personnel, maybe most importantly. Remember, first year, didn't have the guys run the system. It showed. This year now in year 4 in the SEC, second year in the SEC rather, they got their guys. That is a Brent Venables brand of defense. Because if it wasn't, y'all, we would have seen against Michigan. I know it's Bryce Underwood in his first start on the road, all those things, but the personality of that team and their ability to run the football a year ago, I know there's different pieces, but still, that Michigan team would have exposed them if it was not a Brent Venables brand defense. You have that defense every single week, you'll play better competition, 100% true. But that defense carrying over and being real, I'm just telling you, that'll keep you in any given game that you're playing in. Now, on the offense, I want to phrase this carefully. Offensively, what's real to me is when you have a healthy John Mateer, you will have the ability to close your eyes and grit your teeth in any game that's a must-win, big game, whatever you want to phrase it, and be multiple. Now, I say it that way because the conversation of they need a running back to tote the mail, so true. Jaden Knott, I was singing his praises from the Calgorhythm when he got there. Haven't seen him really pop just yet. You hope that's coming, but you need a guy to carry the mail. All right? Has to happen. Quarterback cannot carry it 20 times every game. I don't disagree with you. I am 100% on board. I want to save John Mateer as a quarterback, and I want him to play for every single game this season. I don't want him carrying it 20 times, much less in the SEC. But even with that being said now, in the, hey, we got to have it games, in Red River against Texas, against LSU, when it's the big spots and maybe game days back and maybe it's one of those like primetime spots, Herbie and Fowler, in the games where you absolutely have to have it, say, John, make sure you hit the ice tub this week, Normatec boots, we're running you this week, brother. They have that at least in the bag. Now, I don't want to see it every game, but in spots like this, with those games I just mentioned, when Michigan comes to town, I'm more than okay with saying we're going to ration this out over the course of the year, but when it's time to go, we're going to activate quarterback run. We're going to run you a fair amount this week, John, because the passing game, I think, should speak for itself. I think Jaron Canick's been awesome at tight end. I think Deion Burks is an absolute dude. I think John Mateer and what he is throwing the football downfield, his arm talent speaks for itself. If you watch that game with your own 2-0 host, like, you know this dude can throw the football. You know they got weapons that can stretch the field, and I think that's going to even evolve. So if that's in place, I'm not worried about that. And I know John Mateer, the run game is going to be there. We're going to be multiple. We're going to be able to take the air out of a game in the last 4 minutes. We're going to be able to go score 30, dare I say 40 if any game requires. I think Ben Arbuckle has those kind of ingredients, but the key factor, again, John Mateer being healthy and being available to be called upon to run 15, 20 times. Now, if you want to win the games in between those, yes, a running back has to step up. But in the biggest spots, I think they're very multiple, and you saw that against Michigan with John Mateer having north of 70 yards rushing. Now, here's maybe the biggest thing that we've beat to a pulp, but I want to do it one more time because I don't know that we've done it on this show together since the Michigan game happened. Different reaction videos. Again, another reason to be subscribed. If you're an Oklahoma fan, you're a sicko, whatever, dial into this show. It's college football year round. There's a lot of ways to define this, and everyone uses different words. We've said swag. We sat down with John Mateer and talked about that with him. Threw on the headband. It was a good vibe. Go check out that conversation at Media Days. Funny to watch that back now, given the context of the Michigan game. You could say belief. You could say moxie. Here's how I would phrase it right now for Oklahoma. Everyone in that building associated with Oklahoma Sooner football has the same vibe of we don't care who we're playing. We don't care how tough the schedule is. You have got to see us for 4 quarters. That was not there last year. There wasn't that same sense of confidence. This year, though, you go watch how they operate on the sideline. Go watch how they operate on defense. Go watch how they operate after John Mateer touches the paint. Big game. Like, that is the feeling there. So, yes, the schedule sucks. Schedule is brutal. No way around it. But Oklahoma's not worried about that. Oklahoma's not worried about the logos they have to play. They're like, no, you got to see us for 4 quarters. When toe meets leather and they lock the gates, you got to deal with us. And that persona, that competitive fire, that temperature, all that means a lot in college football. Because I saw 2 separate teams through the first 2 weeks of the college football season not have that intentionality, not have that edge, that fire, got beat by teams they should not be losing to, on paper at least, based on the talent. So for Oklahoma now, maybe to take it a step further with the you got to see us feel, guess what? Now you have proof. You can feel that way during fall camp, feel that way during spring ball. Hey, we going to be good now. But it's just talk. It's just a good vibe in the locker room when you crank up the music, when you leave the facility and you feel good about yourself. Oh, we're going to be good. No, you beat Michigan. And Michigan, we'll see what they are this year. A long season. But I don't think they're going to be an easy out for anybody. Michigan, that is. I think that's a win that's going to actually age really well for Oklahoma. So now that you have proof, that just pours gasoline on the fire of the belief of all those things we mentioned of the you have to see us. So what's real right now in college football, I don't know if Oklahoma's going to be a playoff team. But I tell you what, I wouldn't want to play them. I wouldn't want to play them. Take it a step further, I wouldn't want to play them in the playoff because they get in the doors with that quarterback, with that run game, with run game being him running the football, with that passing game, with that defense, like all bets are off when it comes to the Sooners. Long show today, Cato. Hour 10 plus, but it's a wonderful Wednesday here on the Hard Count, man. It's college football season. We're here. I don't want to say we're back anymore. We're here. We're all the way here. So we appreciate y'all being here with us, making this show what it is. It's going to be an electrifying slate this upcoming Saturday. We got one more show for you tomorrow. We'll have a bunch of reactions and videos for you throughout the course of the weekend as well. We'll have our picks for you on Thursday. All right, coming out on Thursday, Friday. It'll be out before the weekend. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure you're subscribed. Again, all the betting odds and lines courtesy of our phenomenal friends at BetMGM. For Caden Smith, running the alley, spitting hot fire on the mic, bringing you all the production value you see here for myself and JJ PicKell. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We'll keep this party rolling. We'll see y'all.